It's Tuesday the 5th of June 2018. I'm David Jenkins here today at Derbyshire County Cricket Club, and today we're talking about umpiring, and I'm delighted to be joined by three Derbyshire based umpires. So today we have with us...
I'm David Connor, I'm chairman of the ACO for Derbyshire, and I've been umpiring for 20 years, following 20 odd years actually playing cricket.
Hi, I'm Annette Owen. I started umpiring in the mid-1980s. I did 25 years of it till I retired in 2010, and I now observe umpires in order to help them to progress.
Okay, hi, I'm Mohammed. Waseem. I played in the Derbyshire League for 12 years and I've now been umpiring in the league for 4 years.
Well, thank you and welcome. Annette, can I start with you? You've obviously got a wealth of experience now as a cricket umpire. Can you explain how you got into cricket umpiring and then really sort of what it's meant to you within the context of the game?
Well, I started going to cricket because my husband played cricket, and if I didn't go along, I would never see him at weekend. It was as simple as that. And then I have two boys, and they got into cricket, and I always went to cricket. It was as simple as that. I've done most jobs within the game. I've been the tea lady. I've been the scorer. I used to commentate on local radio on a Saturday afternoon in the mid-80s. And I decided to become an umpire after one or two derogatory comments about women. And so I took the umpire's course, and it's gone from there. I suppose I was lucky really in that John Salisbury looked after me in the early years. He was very good in where he sent me, which matches he sent me to, and I had to develop a reputation of my own so that people realised A, I knew what I was doing, and B, I was quite capable of doing such a game, and it just blossomed from there really.
She had one up on us men umpires because she could speak to men in a different way that we as men can speak to men, because they would take abuse at us. Whereas Annette could go up to someone and say, oh, are we going to have a good Johnny today, or are we going to have a bad Johnny today? Because if we're going to have a good Johnny today, the game will be fine. Now, if I was to go up and say that to a cricketer, they'd probably look me in the face and tell me where to go. So it did help. I've umpired with Annette, on several occasions in junior days, but that is a fact. She can handle men.
My discipline is totally different. I can actually put my arm around somebody, and it not be perceived as something
sending
horrendous.
tingles down my back.
Oh, thank you. And I can talk to people. I can say things that other people can't.
Yeah.
And so when people ask me how I manage to keep discipline, my discipline is very different. The way I can discipline players is very different. People don't want to stand out there and shouted at by a woman. It's worse than being shouted at by your mother in public, isn't it? Yeah. People don't like it.
Yeah, I remember a story now. I don't know if you remember, but we were playing against Spondon, and I was keeping. And I was having my usual moan about the way things were going with umpiring decisions of the game. And Annette was standing with another colleague, and the other colleague must have told me for about 3 or 4 overs, just stop what you're doing. I think in between one of the overs I was having another go, and Annette walked in for square leg and she just said, stop, come over here, like a school teacher. Said something to me about, do you want to play this game? Or do you want to play next week? And I said, yes I do. And she just calmly walked back, and I didn't say another word for the rest of the game. So I don't know what kind of magic skills you had, or just kind of taught me just to stay quiet, while the other umpire had been trying for about 20 minutes. And it didn't work, so
was Annette the inspiration that got you into umpiring, was it?
For me it was more, I wouldn't say inspiration at the start. As mentioned before, while I played, I don't think I fully respected umpires in terms of what they did or how difficult the job was. And I went on I wouldn't say forced, but I was given a bit of a nudge to go into the level 1 course to see what umpiring was about. I think this is in 2011. So I did the course and I thought it was okay, quite enjoyable, but I had I didn't really want to go into umpiring at that stage. I was quite young, but a few years later, when I had a bit of an injury, and I thought, I've done the course, and I gave John Salisbury a call and I said, can I just do my club Rolls Royce? It was a Saturday, and I think the Division 5 game, and I did the game. I enjoyed the game, but I knew there were certain aspects which I didn't know in terms of the laws of the game. So then I did the level 1A course after the 2013 season. Really enjoyed it, and with John's persuasion, I didn't go back to umpiring. I didn't go back to playing, sorry, and I went into umpiring, and I just really enjoyed it. I didn't think I would, but it's just sometimes being in the middle is the best seat in the house, and when you learn that how important umpire is to the game, you take it seriously and you try to do your best, because you know there's 22 players out there that expect you to do your best and rely on you to have a good game, and from there it's gone on.
One interesting fact similar to that is I was in Sri Lanka watching England play, I think it was 2002, I'm sure it was 2002, and Richard Illingworth was our host, and I remember sitting in the hotel on the first morning having a drink, waiting for our room keys, and I think Richard and we were the last to get our key, and as I sat there, Richard Illingworth came across to me and he said, "You're Annette, aren't you?" And I thought, I haven't done anything wrong, I've only been here a day, I can't have done anything wrong yet. So I sort of said yes. He said, "But you're an umpire." I said, yeah, no problem. Right, he said, "I'm doing my umpire's exam when I get back." He says, "Every night I'm going to study a set of laws, certain number." He says, "I want at breakfast you to quiz me on those 3 laws every breakfast. So when I get back, I'll be ready to do my exam." And that's what we did for the whole 2.5 weeks we were in Sri Lanka. He would spend so much each night studying a certain set of number of laws. The following morning at breakfast, him and his wife Anne would come and sit with us. We'd have breakfast, I'd ask him different questions, pose scenarios, so forth and so on. He came back within 3 days, sat his umpire's exam, which he passed, and he sent me a lovely message saying, "Thanks very much, Annette, I've passed," and you know, now he's an ICC umpire, so I think to myself, can't be bad.
Have you kept in touch?
Sorry?
Have you kept in touch?
Funnily enough, I saw him 10 days ago down at Worcester, he and his wife, and yes, it was lovely. Came across for a chat, and it was very good.
Good. And Dave, you in your introduction, you said you played for 20 years, you umpired for 20 years, so you're a cricket man through and through.
True, yes.
It's an obvious question really, but presumably you naturally progressed from playing to umpiring?
In a way, yes. I actually had to stop playing for a shoulder injury. I was a sort of a quick bowler, and I couldn't enjoy the game if I wasn't bowling. And during the first years of my shoulder injury, I kept scoring and played the odd game, and then the pain would last a couple of weeks. So I wouldn't play the next week, so I would score. And then someone said to me, "There's an umpire's course going on." So I went on this umpire's course, and it was a tough course when it was the old ACUNS, and it was an exam. And the tutor I had at the time said that doing this course and taking that exam is the equivalent of a degree. That the questions they asked you and the intensity of the answer, or the in-depthness of the answer, was such that you was marked down if you missed a comma, if your punctuation was wrong, if your spelling was wrong, if you missed any paraphrase, you would be marked down on it. So it was a very, very strict exam, whereas now the exam, there is no exam now. We went through a phase where we had multi-choice answers, which went down quite well, but the latest sort of set of educational videos and equipment doesn't permit us to have an exam. Now, in a way, I think that's going to see a downfall in the quality of umpires, because people say they've been on a course, and sometimes they have, but unless you're an extremely good shooter, how do you know how well they've done, how much they've taken in? We try to drag it out of them, but and I can see a slight decline in the quality of umpires at the moment, although at the moment we have got some extremely good umpires, especially in Derbyshire. And as the role of chairman, I'm also a performance officer, and I have to sort of try and promote umpires that have got a quality, because there is a pathway to the top. And I have to try and promote these guys to the top. And that's getting harder and harder, because there's fewer vacancies coming at the top, but we're in a position at the moment in Derbyshire where I've probably got 10, 12 of the best umpires that I can see looking around the country in a group. And I know you get this in stages in clubs where you get a group of players that come up together and they're all very good, and all of a sudden after 7 or 8 years that team starts to dissipate and the standard of that club go down slightly. And I've got this at the moment where we've got some of the best umpires, and we are at the top of our game, and I've got 3 umpires that are D graded, which means they can do minor counties and they can do county second 11. I've got 4 that are approaching level 3 and D grade, and I've got to promote those and try and promote those every year. But as I say, there's fewer and fewer being sort of selected by the ECB, because there's fewer dropping off at the moment. Maybe things will change in the future, I don't know. But
so it's in quite a healthy state then?
In Derbyshire, I think we're in a very healthy state, especially at the top end.
Yes.
We've got some very good umpires doing our Premier League, and we get very, very few complaints. We do get a few minor issues in the lower divisions, and sometimes in the very low divisions where we don't have any umpires, we're asked for umpires because it may be a contentious game. 2 local sides are rivals and things might happen, so they ask for umpires, and as John Salisbury, our appointments officer, he'll accommodate that. So we're in a very healthy state.
Cricket is a game of anecdotes and stories, and some I've heard are often involve umpires or sometimes against umpires. You must have some interesting stories.
Well, we do have our representation, or have had over the years, representation of sort of professional cricketers, playing the first class game that play for Derbyshire, and we've had a number of players that are actually international players now, and they've come up, from as not as a junior within our ranks, but maybe come over from overseas. But one of the funniest things I've seen, and it involves a guy that was very, very funny in his own right, with Randle, and he was playing local cricket for Dunstall, and I was umpiring the game, Dunstall against Sandyacre, and I turn up at the ground about an hour and a quarter, hour and a half before the start of the game, and there's this man out in the middle, and he's walking down the middle of the pitch with a ball in hand going bounce, 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 which is against the laws of cricket. So I've, not what I'd normally do, but I've shouted out, "Derek, stop it!" And he's looked up at me and he put his hand down and he's walked off. Well, the next thing I hear was a couple of the players come out. They said, "Derek's in a bloody good mood today," he said. I said, "Why?" He said he hadn't been here 5 minutes and you got a rollicking from the umpire for bouncing the ball on the ground, so he's going to have a good game. And that's the type of thing you get from some of these professionals. They think they can get away with things, and we are, in a way, as well equipped and versed as the senior umpires that are standing out in the middle for county games. So, that's one of my little anecdotes that I go around telling people.
What about you, Annette?
Well, I've done a lot of cricket, but I think it wasn't really an anecdote as such, but it was myself. I was fortunate enough to stand in a one-day game, Australia against England ladies, although I understand they now want to be called England women, though I don't understand the difference between a lady and a woman, but never mind. And it got to the last over, and Isha Guha was bowling from my end, and I think Australia needed 2 or 3 off the final ball, and I'm stood with my hands behind my back and I'm thinking, you are impartial in this game. Do not, no, it doesn't. If it goes down the leg side, you've got to give a wide. And Isha, for goodness sake, don't bowl that. And everything's going through your mind, But overall, you've got this thing of, you are impartial. You mustn't be biased. You've got to give whatever happens. And I was fortunate enough that Isha bowled a lovely ball. Australia, in fact, they did. I don't think they even scored off it. And England won the game. That was the first time England had beaten Australia. And I'm stood there with this sigh of relief, and my shoulders must have sunk 6 inches, from... I didn't have to make a decision or wide or anything like that. And the pressure gets to you, but you've still got to do it professionally. You've got to act with dignity, with honesty and calmness, and not let this build up of pressure inside you get to you. And I think that's something that a lot of umpires find difficult to deal with. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I think what's about
So
you.
yeah, I was just thinking about this for the last couple of minutes, and when I first started umpiring the first year, I never had all the ECB ACO gear. Like when you go to a game with polo shirt on, all kind of the ACO bag. And I've been trying to remember the ground. I think it was Stanton on Dale, or Standing Upon Dale, and it was a Division 7 game, and for some reason I was going to be there by myself. The other umpire didn't get there that game, and I arrived at the ground with my normal kind of a Nike bag, and I said to, we get there normally an hour before, because I was new, I was really keen at that time, so I got there about an hour and 20 minutes before the game. I had my gear, and I said to the groundsman, oh, where's the room, the changing room? And just took me into a room, and it was quite a decent sized room, and I sat down and I just sat there for 15-20 minutes and not doing too much, and then another gentleman turned up, and because I was very shy, he was quite young, and he just sat there next to me, and he says, we just sat there 5 minutes, and after a few minutes says to me, what number do you want to bat today? He actually thought that I was a new player, that I was actually going to be playing for their team, because I didn't look like an umpire, I had no gear. He thought, and I said, oh, I'm not going to be batting any number, I'm the umpire, and I walked, and he told me where to go, around the corner, and I saw him again at the toss, and I introduced him who I really was.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Let me give you a question based on an anecdote from me. I played in a game in Derbyshire years ago at Sudbury Open Prison, friendly game, and a very small ground, and it was an artificial wicket in the early 1980s, and the bowler bounced the ball, hit the batsman on the shoulder, flew up to the wicketkeeper, who sort of tried to catch it but just parried it backwards, a bit like a goalkeeper, and they had a long stop on the boundary who tried to do the same thing and pushed it over the boundary. So
I know what's coming next.
The question is,
Go on.
what does the umpire give for that?
4 leg byes.
Right.
But did they all queue up? Say, please, sir, can we go outside to fetch the ball? Did you get that? Because I had that with it. Please, sir, can I go down the drive and fetch the ball? You know, I'm going after prison here.
So I reckon that 4 leg byes is correct, but the umpire on that occasion said 6 leg byes, and the problem that he had was then signalling that, because he managed, in trying to signal it, to fall flat on his face. There we are.
That's why we do it as separate signals these days.
Absolutely.
Well, not, you know.
Anyway,
you do your leg byes and then you're done.
that's just a light-hearted way to finish. Thank you very much indeed for your reminiscences and everything you've said about umpiring.